Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am going to focus on the arcade machines, and in particular, I'm going to talk about the one that's on the left, which is the Street Fighter machine that I've modified. I'll also go through why I have these particular machines, what make they are, and the different mods that you can do, and I'll go through the mods that I've specifically done. Then I'll demo a couple of games as well, in terms of using the front end that I've got on the Street Fighter machine. First off, what are these machines? These are built by a company called Arcade1Up, and these are generation 1. So I've got the Pac-Man machine, the Street Fighter, and Final Fight. The Final Fight's got several other games on it as well, 1944, Ghosts and Goblins, etc. Anyway, these are Gen 1, like the first wave that came out a couple of years ago, and Arcade1Up has come a long way since. They have definitely put out better quality cabinets now, less quality issues. They've got lit up marquees, and in a lot of instances I'm seeing online anyway that they've started including these risers. So these have worked out really well for me. I've had them for a couple of years, and the prime reason I got them is, I didn't want my room just to be dominated by arcade machines. I needed them to fit in this particular space. So these are 3/4 size of the original arcade machines that you would have seen in the arcades in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And they're the perfect form factor for my room. The naysayers will say, these are knockoffs. You should have just bought the real thing. But keep in mind, the real thing is, those old school televisions inside generate a lot of heat. They're noisy in a quiet game room, and it just didn't make sense for me to spend a couple of $1,000s. At least where I am, they cost a couple of $1,000 for a good example, and they also take up too much room. So anyway, this is part of the reason why. And then the second major reason for me to actually have arcades in the basement is when buddies come over, the nostalgia factor. When you're versing a friend, especially if you're in your 30s and 40s, you grew up with arcades in your neighborhood, in your malls, etc. I mean, they were literally everywhere, and we've all dumped endless quarters into these things. So when my buddies come over, it's instant attraction, and we're on these, and the muscle memory kicks in, and the combinations and of buttons to press and moves to pull and finishing moves, etc., etc. So it's a lot of fun, and for a fraction of the price of getting original arcade machines, you get the entire sensation that you've been transported back, and you're a kid again. Okay, and here are the sounds that I was referring to earlier. All the different commotion and mix of sounds that you would get in an arcade. That's what I wanted to recreate, and that's what we've got here, right? Like, we got Street Fighter sounds going on, Pac-Man sounds, and then this game as well, 1944. Okay, let me turn the sound off on these other two and turn this one down as well a little bit. So what I've done to modify the Street Fighter machine is I had an old PC laying around, just like, as you guys recall, I've got a PC, a spare PC from like 10-12 years ago that most normal people would have thrown out, but I am running my screens, those ones and these ones in the theater room are all off of some old PC that I had. So I had another one that was even older, probably about 13-14 years old. So and the main thing is I want to run ROMs that are from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, and they don't take a whole lot of processing power, right? I mean, this by today's standards are very old. So what you can do to mod, I mean, I've got a PC in there just because I had the hardware. What you can do in a cost-effective way is to buy one of these Arcade1Up machines and put in a Raspberry Pi, and you can run an app called RetroPie. and you can then you can also install, like, several hundred or several thousand ROMs as you wish. So the slightly more expensive route is to go with a Pandora's box, and then thirdly, obviously, if you have a PC, then you can kind of do the same. So with a PC, it's a little bit more involved, that's for sure. You've got USB encoders that you need, but for all of them, you do need a VGA adapter of sorts, and I'll put a link in the description on all the parts that you need. So I followed ETA Prime. He's on YouTube, and I followed his video closely to mod my machine, and it took a little bit, to be honest. It took a little bit to get the buttons all keyed in properly, and get the games to just work right, and launch properly. So speaking of launch, this is running Launchbox on a Windows 10 machine, and it's got auto login. So as soon as I say turn the arcades on, this comes on, and it'll sit at a menu screen. And let me get to that menu screen now. So here you go. All kinds of consoles here: Nintendo, Nintendo GameCube, Super Nintendo. So arcade is those main games from I've got a total games 2,772. So it's literally everything. So this is the Street Fighter was just playing. So let's try a game that is not native here, just to show you how it kind of works. So it's as easy as selecting, loads the game, and then it starts up. So the reason why I modified the Street Fighter cabinet is because it already had a whole bunch of buttons. As you can see, 6 control buttons on a side. I did have to add 2 extra buttons. These buttons are for coins, so it mimics inserting coins. And because, keep in mind, these are the original arcade games that were running on machines back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, it needs a mechanism to initiate. So it's not just a start button. There's probably hacks and things, but it just makes it that much more authentic. So you start pressing this, as you can see, the credits start increasing, and then you can start the game. Okay, so the other spots that we game besides the arcade in the game room is this is for my wife anyway. A slot machine. It's an early 90s slot machine from Japan, and runs flawlessly and a lot of fun to play. The other spot is where I've got some old school consoles, and that's where I typically play some of the older games that I've got. The current consoles are upstairs, and the kids prefer to play upstairs on different TVs. The other spot, the final spot that I sometimes game, is of course in the theater room. Especially if it's a simulation type of game, those are fantastic in this environment. But then just getting back to the arcades, a lot of fun to play. Check out the links in my description, and let me know if you have any questions on these. Ask away in the comments section, and I will reply. I try and read and reply as promptly as I can to any questions that come up. Once again, guys, appreciate your time. Appreciate you guys watching. Please do subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.